Hey everyone, for folks who are just joining, welcome. We'll start in a minute or so, but in the meantime, feel free to introduce yourself in the chat, post your LinkedIn links if you want to, connect with folks around, and yeah, use the chat to talk, banter throughout the event. We'll start in just a second. And speaking of Brittany, I think we are 5 minutes up from the top of the hour, so we can start.
Yeah,
All right.
sounds good to me. This is being recorded, so if anybody has to join later or anything, we can always, share out the recording and stuff.
All right, so I'm gonna fade out my music. And yeah, let me get things started. Hey everyone, welcome to the first event of Out in Tech's Engineers Developers Community for 2024. Speaking of, Happy New Year, even though it's almost the middle of January. Can you believe that? My name is Deepak. My pronouns are he, him, his. I am a software engineer by the day, and also one of the volunteers for Out in Tech, where along with Brittany, I help moderate the engineers developers channel and do a few other impact programs across Out in Tech. Speaking of, if you don't know what Out in Tech is, it's the world's largest LGBTQ tech community with chapters all around the world and a Slack workspace with over 30,000 people. So if you have not heard of Out in Tech, definitely do check us out at outintech.com and join our Slack channel through outintech.com/Slack, where I will post the links in a second. But this is where our engineers developers community is. We have over 2,000 folks from all over the world within our engineers channel. We also host a multitude of events, both virtual and in person. So you can sign up for those events as well through our website. So do check that out. And I would also like to remind all of you that Out in Tech is a safe space for the community, the LGBTQ community. So we do have a set of code of conduct which you can find in our website, and that code of conduct applies here as well. So it applies both in our virtual spaces as well as in real life. So please be mindful of that, and please, treat everyone with kindness and respect, and we'll have a great community here. So for today's event, we are going to go on a journey of automation, so that we can make this new year more productive and more successful for all of us. And we have Brittany, who is going to be walking us through a workshop on how to make this happen. Brittany is an expert on all things automation, so you are very safe in their hands. And we will also have time in the end for some Q&A. So we're going to be using the Zoom's Q&A feature for this. You should see a button which says Q&A at the bottom of your Zoom screens. Please click into that and add your questions. You can also choose to add them anonymously, but yeah, I will go through these questions and ask Brittany to answer them at the end of the event. We will also share a feedback link, a short Google survey for you to take at the end of the event, so you can give us feedback about this event and how to do things better for you in the future and what type of events that you would like to see in the future. Finally, if you're able, please do come on camera, because we would love to see all your lovely faces, but this event is also being recorded, so we are mindful of that. With that, I am going to turn over to Brittany to take us through our event for the day.
Yeah, let's do it. And I'm just realizing now I haven't tested sharing the screen, so watch that just really be a kerfuffle here, but I think we're okay so far. All right, it looks
Yeah,
like everybody
it
okay,
worked.
perfect. Good. Okay, awesome. Yeah, so thank you everyone for joining today. For the next hour, we're going to be talking about automation on your favorite web apps, and I'm going to show you how I do it with PixieBrix, but honestly, I'm a huge automation nerd. I was a really nerdy kid that grew up like really liking productivity. And I was always like, how can I keep track of my clothing in a spreadsheet, just like every other 10-year-old thinks, and, things like that. And so as I grew up and started to learn how to build different things and building automation, it's really cool. I used to work in marketing, and I did a lot of like MarTech with like marketing automation for various workflows, and using low code tools like Zapier and things like that, and HubSpot workflow, just to really build out workflows that just kind of ran themselves. And then I actually learned how to code so I could build even more stuff. And now I'm here. So just to tell you more about myself, my name is Brittany Joyner. Pronouns are she, her, and I am head of developer relations and community at PixieBrix, which I'll tell you all about in a minute. But I'm also one of the moderators for the engineers and developers Slack channel in the Out in Tech community. So I don't know exactly how long I've been doing that. I know I joined Out in Tech probably about a year and a half ago or so. And I'm also pretty involved in the welcome community there. So if you've joined in the last year and a half, you may have seen, I may have been one of the people that's kind of welcomed you and said, hello, thank you for joining, and tried to, recommend some channels for you all. So that is me. I am full of energy without Celsius. So even with Celsius, it's just next level. I tend to talk fast. I will try to like slow that down today, but feel free to just post in the chat if you're like, can you maybe not do the supersonic speed? That would be great. So yeah. So for today's agenda, we've got a lot we can cover, and I could honestly spend hours and hours, if not days and days, talking about this sort of stuff. So what I'm going to do is kind of like paint a course for us all and show what is kind of possible and what you can do, and explain some of the types of automations I've built and how I use them to hopefully kind of inspire you. And then I'm going to give you the core kind of skills that you need for building a PixieBrix, because it's I hate when there's a demo and someone's like, oh, there's this tool, this is what it can do, goodbye. I'm going to actually show you more specific things you need to know for how you can actually be successful at building in it. And then with whatever time left, we're just going to build together. I've got a specific mod. That's what we call what you build with PixieBrix, your automations. We call them mods. I've got a specific one we can build together, but I'm also excited to see what everybody's interested in and looking for, and we can answer questions and talk about how to build things that relate to you and your apps and stuff. So that all sounds good. Give me a thumbs up in the chat. And again, feel free to post any sort of questions you have. We'll be using the Q&A tool, the chat tool, so we'll be here. Also feel free, like I'll make sure that there's time when, you can come off mute and actually ask, or if you need to share your screen and get help with something, we can definitely do that too. But yeah, feel free to follow along here. So we're going to be talking about, PixieBrix. So what is PixieBrix? PixieBrix is a low-code browser automation tool, and breaking down the three parts of that, what that effectively means is it's low code, which if you're an engineer, and that's why you're here, you probably have some specific feelings about that one way or the other. You're like, wait a minute, why would I use low code? I know code. And it's because if you know code, you can be really dangerous with low code, because it just means you can do a lot of stuff faster. And PixieBrix is the best low code tool that I have seen that actually means the low part of code, because a lot of times people say low code and they mean absolutely no code. It's a very frustrating way of like organizing things, and you have to use our exact interface. Yes, PixieBrix has a GUI, there is an interface, but it's highly customizable. And so that's where the code part comes in, because if you know what you're doing, you can add your own JavaScript functions, you can write your own JQ filters, you can utilize CSS selectors. So there's a lot of customization that comes from knowing the code, but you can also get started without having to, worry about spinning up an app or creating, hosting your own application and things like that. So the idea is that you can build something a lot quicker than if you were to, straight up write a Chrome extension from code. So that's what the low code part means. The browser part means that you don't have to, have any application or whatever sort of tool to utilize PixieBrix. It happens in Chrome in your browser. We're also working on Edge support as well. But basically what this means is that if you can access a page in Chrome, then you can automate it and interact with it with PixieBrix. And I'll show you some more examples of what that means. But this is super powerful because a lot of people are like, oh, I want to work with this tool, but it doesn't have an API, so I guess there's nothing I can do. That's not true, because PixieBrix even has ways you can interact with the web apps, without needing to worry about APIs, but you can actually like interact with the web page and things like that. And then lastly, the tool part is this is the meat of it, right? You're automating things. PixieBrix mods, which is your full-on automation. It's made up of bricks, which are, you could think of specific functions or like steps that do specific things. And I'm going to walk you through all sorts of different ones for things like adding a row to Google Sheet, or fetching data from a Google Sheet, or creating a card in Trello, or, you know, inserting an element into a page. All of these things that if you were to write an application, you'd need to, you know, write a whole function for, but this is just configuring a brick. And so yeah, so that's what PixieBrix is. And the whole reason I'm not doing the whole slideshow view right now with my slides, I hope there's nobody that super bothers, but I'm going to be going back and forth between slides and demos and stuff. So I just thought this would be the easiest to do. But yeah, I'm going to show you just a couple examples in the wild of how I use PixieBrix, so you can kind of see like, okay, what I see, this is a low-code tool, but like, what are you actually doing with it? So one way I actually use stuff with it is actually here in OIT. So like I mentioned, I'm part of the welcome committee channel. And so what that means is that when different people join, we have templated messages that we give to welcome them, but we also still want to make it a little bit customized. And we also want to look at what they've mentioned to give them very specific recommendations on where they can join and channels they might be interested in. And so I actually built a mod with PixieBrix. I'll show you how this works. I highlight the user's welcome message, and then I open, this is called the quick bar. I open that with the keyboard shortcut, and I select any of my mods that I want here. So I'm going to choose draft welcome message, and it's going to automatically grab their name. And this is where I like to add a custom comment. So maybe, you know, someone mentions that they're into reading. Well, what was the last book you read? Or something like that. Also, yeah, okay, there we go. Customized feedback. Perfect. Sorry, I was checking the chat, making sure we're all good there. But yeah, and so you can see this sidebar appears now with this custom message that I can click copy to clipboard, and then I can open this thread. And you can see Sergio's already responded, but I have my message here that I can customize, and you see my comment here. I actually used AI to recommend some of these channels. Some of them I usually, you know, AI's not perfect, so I kind of need to go through and fix some different stuff there. And then you might think this is copy and pasted, but I actually built several different variations of each of these paragraphs, and PixieBrix is randomly grabbing one different variation. So there's like, you know, this is never like straight up copy and paste, right? This could be like, I think there's like 7 different sections and 5 different ways to say it. So there's like 35 different, you know, alternatives or whatever that it could be. So anyway, so that's one way I use PixieBrix. And another way I use PixieBrix is I'm a huge Trello nerd. I'm obsessed with Trello. It's probably number one thing anyone should know about me. Other than, you know, I also am obsessed with pets, but let's say I'm browsing the internet and I'm like, hey, this is a pretty cool article. I want to save it to Trello. Deepak's, you know, excited about Trello. What are the things we've bonded over? And so I actually have a PixieBrix mod where I can just create a Trello card, and it's going to scrape data from the page. And, hang on, let me reload it. I haven't refreshed that page in a while, so that might be why it's unhappy. There we go. So it's going to then select some of my boards. You can see my starred boards here. And let's say maybe I want to save this to content. And then it's going to open this new modal that grabs the list in that board, lets me specify which one I want to put it in. It's automatically grabbed the title of the page and the link. So I could just hit submit and be done. Or, you know, I can add any custom notes like, I want to read this. And, you know, I can assign members, I can grab labels from the board, whatever I want to do, hit submit, and boom, that's going to show up in my Trello board. Let's bring up my Trello board. Content, articles, I think that's what I saved. Actually, don't even remember now which one I saved it under. Was it articles? Yeah, there it is. See right there. So you can see it brought all that over here. I didn't even have to go to Trello. So that's super cool. I also have one for like opening Trello, so I can like search for a Trello board. I don't admittedly use that a ton because if you're a Trello user, there's also a shortcut inside of Trello where you can just hit B and it will let you search for different boards. But, you know, you can do different things like that. The confetti animation, that is also something I've actually done. So I use PixieBrix for whenever there's a checklist item. If you know this about Trello, when you drag a whole card into a done list, it'll spray confetti across your screen. They don't do that with checklist items, and it makes me so sad. So I built it with PixieBrix. So when I check off a checklist item, it sprays confetti for me. So that's really fun. What else do I use it for? this is probably one that I'm like most proud of is I built this one for work, and we have a lot of different tools where we interact with users, and we might save some stuff in our CRM. We might also save some stuff like in our user data panel for like Mixpanel, where we're tracking like different analytics and stuff. So if someone's having an issue, we can help them. And so I built with PixieBrix this dashboard is what I call it, where I can search a name. And I can highlight a name and search it, or open that like I just did, and it puts together this whole panel that tells me everything I want to know about them. I could see like, oh, they're starred. Why are they starred? If I click that, it tells me why. And I can see this information is coming from different places, right? It could be coming from Pipedrive, Mixpanel, but I'm bringing it all together in one place, along with different actions, right? I can go find them on LinkedIn. I can view their data in Mixpanel. I can open in Pipedrive. I can, click log contact, and I can say if I've done something with them, which helps me kind of keep track of that. I can even click this button to automatically send an email, and it, drafts it in the right sort of format that I need it to. So this is one I'm like pretty proud of because it actually pulls in different notes and things too. So it's using some like back end API stuff, but it's also using this front end to like style this nice little bar and do whatever I want with that there. So that's super cool. I also do some stuff with it on LinkedIn. And so, for instance, if I go to my profile page, you'll see, well, works on any LinkedIn profile page. I'm just demoing on mine, but you'll notice this button that says get email. Well, if I click that, it's hooked up to the Pipedrive API, or not Pipedrive, Hunter.io API, and it's going to scrape the page to look at where I work and my name, and then suggest an email address. And this is super helpful. I actually have my partner, she uses this as she's trying to look for jobs. It's a great way to, if you're frustrated with just sending a message on LinkedIn to a recruiter and they never respond, use something like Hunter to actually get their email address, and you can use this mod and do it with one click. And so that's one thing I use it for. What else do I use this for? Oh, LinkedIn message templates. So this is a fun one. So let's say I'm messaging with someone. I can click this little button here. That's PixieBrix lets you like create buttons and insert them. And I can access predefined templates that when I click one, it's going to inject that in the text. So that's super useful for like common things. I get a lot of people reach out to me wanting them to like review their like product hunt stuff. So I spend a lot of time with, like saying, yes, I will check that out. Like, hey, let me know when that's due, or, various things like that. So that's super helpful at doing stuff like that as well. What else do I use PixieBrix for? Opening Slack. I've really started getting into using Slack in the browser lately. It's a good way of like paying attention to the Slack spaces I want to, and not all 20 of them at the same time. And so I built this, which lets me say, which Slack spaces do I want to open right now? And I can just click them all, or click the ones that I want, and I click open, and it'll open a tab for each of them. Or I can click the all at the bottom, and it will open all of them. But again, rarely do I want to do that. So I'll pause there, because that's kind of a lot I just threw out there. But I want to look at the chat and see what was kind of resonating with people here too. Notion, yes, you can interact with Notion. We have the Notion API, which, yeah, I see Mark chimed in with there. So there's lots of different stuff you can do there. We like the confetti animation. That's always fun. More confetti. I'll show you. This is actually a brick in PixieBrix that you can add on top of anything that'll just spray confetti across the screen. I could literally say, when I open Slack, spray confetti. So if you want confetti everywhere, this is great. If we could just rebrand as a confetti tool, that'd be kind of cool. That'd be really fun. But obviously there's, even more to it. It's just a nice little touch. So yeah, okay, there's some excitement about this. Like you all are pumped. One thing I want to specify is the way PixieBrix works. I didn't really like make a slide for this, but these mods you can make and share with people. And so some of the ones I've mentioned, you don't have to build a thing. You could just go and activate. And so like these LinkedIn message templates, if like, I'll post this link in the chat here. If you go here, this is just what I was demonstrating. You can set this up. You don't have to, build a single thing in PixieBrix. You just need to connect a Google Sheet that looks like one of these and has your templates in it, and then you're good to go. Or same with, the confetti on Trello. I think I've also got that one in here. So like there's different ones in our marketplace that you can just activate without the bat. But when you want to build custom stuff, that's when you want to understand these developer concepts, and you want to be able to, understand really what's going on under the hood here. Leo says, what'd you use your automation skills on? I made it that every time I accomplish literally anything, my computer throws confetti. Yes, I think that's perfectly valid, right? I'm not mad about that. I definitely throw confetti in. It motivates me, keep me going. Exactly. Positive reinforcement. So yeah, so now I'm going to go through some core developer concepts that just kind of sets the stage here. And I could probably spend hours talking about each one of these, but I want us to have some time together to actually open up the page editor, which I'll explain that next, and build stuff together. So if it feels like I'm just scratching the surface and you have a lot of questions, don't panic. Feel free to post some of those questions in the chat. Also, if you find this interesting and you're trying to build something custom and we don't cover it in the next hour, reach out, let me know. We'll definitely, work on chatting through that. And I'm happy to help anybody out that I can. But yeah, the core things you need to know if you want to develop with PixieBrix. First of all, where you build, it's the page editor. That's what we call our editing interface, our GUI for building these things. So I like to just use Wikipedia as like a dummy page because it's usually pretty static and fun. So once you've added PixieBrix, which I'll show you how to do that. I mean, you can go to our website. Actually, I may just skip there in case anybody wants to kind of follow along. Let me skip to that here. I actually made a page for us, pixiebrix.com/out-in-tech, and I'll post that in the chat here if you want to sign up. But if you go to that page, you'll see there's a start for free button there. Click there. You can connect a Google account. You can use Magic Link sign in, various things. Sign in. It'll walk you through adding the Chrome extension. And then that's what you'll need to do to be able to kind of follow along. But for now, feel free to also just kind of watch and see what we're doing here. But once you have PixieBrix installed from just about any web page that Chrome extensions can access, you'll right click on the page like you're going to open up your developer tools, and click inspect. And I have mine cleaned up a bit. Usually there's a bunch more here. But your doc may be, depending on what kind of developer you are, your doc may be up in the top right. If it's like that, click these three dots at the top here and dock it at the bottom because that's easiest to view for PixieBrix. And it'll help you see more of these tabs here. If you have a lot, look for, again, once you've got the PixieBrix Chrome extension installed, you should see this tab called PixieBrix. You click it. This is the page editor. And so this is where we build all sorts of stuff. And so I've got this slide that kind of explains what it looks like when you get there. That first panel is a list of all the different automations you've built and you've got activated. There's a separate dashboard where you can, remove something here, but then reactivate it later. But this is your active mods that you've got. This second panel here in the middle, it's your brick pipeline. And so you can think of, let's say I've selected a specific mod. This shows each step that's in that. And you can think of each step as like a function, right? So it's maybe doing a specific thing like creating a card in Trello or scraping something from a page or showing a form for input. Whatever you want to do with that. And then this third panel, this is your brick configurations panel. And so what you're doing there is whatever brick you have selected, this is your configuration options for it. And so again, this is going to vary so much depending on the brick, but it could be, if it's create Trello cards, specifying any defaults you want there, specifying what board do you want it to create a Trello card on, etc. And then lastly, you've got your data panel, which is going to show your output and responses. So when each brick runs, there's obviously an output that comes from it that you can reference in other bricks or that you can, save somewhere, whatever you want to do with that. So this is where you can kind of view it without having to print it out in other sections of the mods. And you can just kind of keep track of what's going on here. So this is where you build. And then for actually building, you're going to use starter bricks. And this is the way we kind of think of like, what kind of mods can you build? And so this is easier to demonstrate in the page editor. So once you've opened it up, if you click this add button, you'll see various options here. And so these options are the different types of mods you can build. So you can add a button, which is going to, when you saw on LinkedIn that I had on, a profile, I had buttons. These are buttons. I literally selected an existing button on a page and said, hey, make another one like it, and then let me customize the styles for it. That's what I did there. That's a button. Context menu, that happens when you highlight text and then right click. This is your context menu. So you can see I can highlight text, and I've got ones for, searching for a user, translating text, recommending a knowledge article, various things like that. But that's your context menu. Your quick bar action, you saw those. That was when I, opened the quick bar and there was something here. So as soon as, I click that, that's a quick bar mod, and the actions that are listed in that mod, the bricks that come after that will come when I click that. Sidebar panel, that is one that shows up over here. So I've got, various ones over here. We've got one for translating text and doing various things. So we'll talk more about sidebar panels and building interfaces in a minute. And then there's also triggers. I'm leaving out some of these because they're in beta and not available to everybody, but they're basically like dynamic quick bar, which is where you can set text while you're typing in it and it responds to that. But yeah, triggers are a really important one too, because triggers are, you can basically define an event to watch, and it could be whenever a page loads. It could be when I click something on a page. It could be when, I'm selecting text, but that selected text is changed, or, any of these sort of things. So you've really got a lot of options for if you want to fire your automation, you can pick any one of these to initiate that automation and whatever actions you want to happen after it. So and I'll include a link to documentation, and you can learn a lot more about these, but those are the core different types of starter bricks and ways that you can initiate automation. So any questions on starter bricks real quick? I'm going to pause and take a sip. See, we are team right side here. Leo's bottom. Separate window or screen is a good one too. I also actually like to pop it out sometimes. I don't like the way I said that, but yes. Yeah. And so getting back to business. So once you've decided what your trigger is, you can do, like I said, do whatever. Context menu is a good one to kind of start with. Just because it's pretty quickly accessible and easy to play around with. So once you've added one, then you just define, well, what happens when someone clicks that? So notice I've got this context, and I'm going to call this OIT, just as I'm playing around demoing here and showing you stuff. But if you right click, notice now when I go in the context menu, I see OIT. And so every time I click that, anything that comes after this is going to fire. And so to start saying, well, what fires, you're going to click this plus button to add a brick. And this opens up our brick modal, where you can see all the different bricks that you have available to you. And you can see this is a crazy wild amount of bricks. I don't recommend scrolling, reading one by one. I recommend when you've decided what you want to automate, kind of looking through and going through these different categories and looking for them, or you can search for them. So if you're like, I like Trello, you're like, hey, I like Notion. Hey, see, we've got some different Notion ones in here. And so that's where I recommend using that, but that's how you add bricks. And so let's say, for instance, let's just say I want something simple like a window alert, or you know what, let's do confetti, because we've got some confetti fans here. Hover over that, click add. And this brick doesn't require any configuration. So now when I right click and go to the PixieBrix and click that OIT, it's going to spray confetti across the screen. So you can kind of see how you chain these bricks together, and that's how you build automations, and some like really powerful ones. Like, I was telling you about that Pixie profile one that kind of shows me all the different things about users. It's a lot, and I'm not saying this is where you start, but all of these is just those little things kind of pieced together. And so it becomes really manageable to kind of quickly build your own sort of automation with that. So that's how you add more bricks. Specific bricks you might like. We have bricks for scraping data. So let's say you want to extract something from a page, like on LinkedIn, how when, I'm scraping to get someone's name. We have bricks for doing that. It is our extract from page brick. And that's where you literally, again, this is where the more code you know, the better you can be here. You can use our mouse to identify a selector, but sometimes that's not always the right one. And maybe you actually want to, specify something more specific. Well, you can pass a jQuery or CSS selector in here to specify what you want. And then you can even determine, okay, well, I want the text from it, or maybe you want some other attribute. You can select that from there. So that's a pretty cool one. Interacting with the DOM. These are super useful for, like when I said you want to work with PixieBrix, but you can't actually access the DOM, you can't access the API. That's where you can interact with the DOM itself. So you could have, we have ones for setting input values, and that's where you can specify an input field and what text you want to inject in it. We have simulating DOM events, which you've got a variety of options there, right? You pick the selector and you can click, you can double click, you can, all of those sort of things. So you can do kind of whatever you want there. You can insert elements, show or hide them. I've already shown some integrations with Trello, Google Sheets, Notion. There's various ones. And if we don't have an integration you're looking for, we have an HTTP request brick where you can get or post or whatever you want to do with your own API endpoint. And I just saw this question about helpers for simplifying DOM nodes robustly on a page with obfuscated class names. So one, I would say that's where we have a lot of fun in the community when someone's like, I'm trying to get some help with this. You're always welcome to post in our Slack community and say, and we'll try to help you with it. But we also have some of these tools. So like, I don't know if you saw when I'm on this one and I'm trying to find a selector, we have different sort of tools here that will kind of help with that. So we can say, select multiple, select similar, different sort of ones like that. But yeah, that's kind of where and you can see what we have pulled. So it will kind of suggest some other ones here that you may want to play around with. And you can always punch something in and see what it selects. So for instance, I recommend actually sometimes staying away from classes because, like you mentioned, those will change on like different page refreshes. And so the best tip that we have is trying to use, like, if there's an ARIA label for something, those are usually pretty consistent. And yeah, like for instance, this is kind of a long one, but you could say, I want ARIA labeled by first heading, go to PixieBrix, and I could just reference that like that. And you can see what I'm able to actually like grab with that. Again, I don't know that I'd want to pull that for this use case, but that's some different ways we kind of play around with that. And so, yeah, anytime you're doing something with a DOM, you'll have that same sort of tools and those sort of issues, and with inserting elements or showing and hiding them. So that's super handy. Yeah, and then other ones you're probably interested in, user input. So you noticed when I ran that one mod, for instance, looking up a user, opened up an alert where I could put in a name here, or same with creating a card in Trello. This is a form where I can, interact with and get the user who's running the automation. So this is super useful if you're ever needing to build what we like to call human in the loop automation. A lot of people are like, okay, what's the difference between Zapier and PixieBrix? I like to say they're both useful and you may use both together. Zapier is fantastic for if you're going to be out on a beach and you want something to happen between two different apps and you want nothing to do with it. You just want it to happen while you're sleeping. Every single time. PixieBrix is great for when you have a human you want in the process. Like, I don't want every single page I've ever visited to create a card in Trello. That would be terrible. I would hate that. I want to initiate it and then automate the actions afterwards. That's when PixieBrix comes in. When there's a human in the loop, you want to decide when it happens. You're automating the actions, but you're still involved initiating it. So that's how I like to explain the difference. So that's why the user input is usually pretty helpful there. Some other bricks, and again, I'm going to kind of speed through this a bit because I want us to actually get in the page editor together and build some stuff. But if you're wondering, how do I, is there stuff for, well, when this thing happens, I want my workflow to do this. When it doesn't happen, I want it to do this. We've got various bricks for making that happen. There's an if-else brick where you can literally specify, specify what your criteria is, and then specify the condition and then add bricks in here. So if I'm on a specific page, or if the input was this or that, show confetti. And if it's not, I don't know, you could play a sad trombone sound or something like that. Which, yes, we have that one too. So, you can play with different things like that. We've also got try except. So if you're working with APIs and you want error handling, you can use that. We've even got setting conditional fields on bricks. So every brick's going to have, or most bricks at least, will have in these advanced options at the bottom. You can pass a statement here with nunjucks, which I'll get more to that later. But you can say something like, true if at, data dot whatever. Let's say you had another one that you were able to find an element, and we only want to do this if you find the element. Well, we can say true if, data blah, 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 whatever is there. So that's pretty handy as well. Transforming data. Speaking of, getting data from somewhere, we recently introduced a JavaScript function brick. Before, you were having to use JQ, which some may love, some may hate. I liked that it was an option in PixieBrix, but I much more like JavaScript because it's usually easier to figure out writing a map function than it is to remember the JQ syntax for that. But you can see examples of both of that, where if you get data from whether it's the web page or your API and you need to filter it or transform it to different formats, you can use JQ or JavaScript bricks to do that. And then AI, that's what everybody's talking about these days. It's very cool. And if you're like, well, I'm an engineer, but maybe I'm a bit more junior, so I don't know if I can develop anything with AI. You can. PixieBrix makes that super possible because we have various ways, namely our create chat response with ChatGPT Brick, which you can see here. The way you effectively configure it is you select an OpenAI integration. You can use our built-in one, or you can connect your own. And then you select a model and you specify the messages properties, and you can change things like, limiting tokens or different things like that and fine tune it. But you can see you actually get, this is an example of in my introductions, welcome recommender. This is what I get back, my response from ChatGPT that I end up then injecting into my templated message. And so it's a great way to interact with that. And then lastly, another core concept is building interfaces. So I've already shown you some examples of these sidebars, and this is kind of the front end of it, right? So you can, oftentimes you'll want to display information that you've received, or you'll want to give users a more robust way to interact with you. This is where these are some of our sidebars where you can see you can add forms, you can add buttons, you can add markdown, emojis, you can, even add tables and things like that. So you can put, whatever data you want to display, you can. So I'm going to pause there for any questions, but I'm about ready to actually open up and build together. If anybody has any questions, shoot them. Otherwise, feel free to, head to this link, start for free, create an account, and let me know when you're on some web page with the page editor open. Doesn't matter. It could be that PixieBrix page, that this one here, on any web page. Let me know when you're there and you've got the page editor open. I'll pause for a few minutes. And yeah, Deepak, have we had any questions that I've missed or anything? I've seen some stuff in the chat, but I think I tried to find the Q&A.
Yeah, we don't have any in the Q&A right now.
It's been coming through the chat.
Yeah, someone did ask for a link to the Hunter integration, if you have it handy.
Oh, yes, a link to the Hunter integration. Yes, yeah. So I'll also post a link to our docs at PixieBrix.com. I just redid this portal, and so this used to be like a weird concoction of Notion all hooked up together, but now it's actually a bit more organized. But we have a whole section on integrations, and you can see all the different things we integrate with and how you would set those up. So here's the link to Hunter. Hunter's what I'm looking for. I'll reply there. And then I'll also link overall to our integrations here. Yeah.
While we're doing the setup, I did have one question about the marketplace. Yeah. So you showed me a marketplace of, so I'm assuming these are third-party developer created bricks?
I mean, they're mostly me/other PixieBrix employee created bricks. We do have some that are third party, like our community members have developed some of these for like hackathons or just their own personal use cases and wanted to share. But yeah, a bunch of these are made by us. But yeah, there's usually, it's something like, I made this for somebody who was they wanted to be able to see custom fields, but they wanted to be able to like toggle on or off custom fields in Trello. And so I made a way for them to do that. Yeah.
Is there a mechanism for people to contribute to this, or is it mostly limited to PixieBrix employees?
So there used to be, but since we didn't get enough demand for people really wanting to do it, we ended up kind of shutting down that process. I would say if you have an idea and you want to, connect with me and I will make it happen for you. Like, I'm happy to build something together and get it launched in here. We've had hackathons before. Let me see what happens if I search for those in here. We've had hackathons before, and we'll have, different people feature things that, let me find a better version of it. Choose movie. Yeah, you can see we'll have different ones where we like to highlight like who it was built by and stuff like that. So if you have something, I'm happy to work with you. There's just not a great way to like submit it as is. Just like reach out to me and say, here's my idea. I'm building this thing. I have built this thing wherever you're at on that journey. And I'll help you put together something like this that you can then share with the world and say, hey, feel free to use my mod.
Got it. Okay. The follow-up question to that was going to be about security, but given that it's all going through PixieBrix, I feel like it's a very secure environment for us to use.
Yeah, and we definitely have the beauty of PixieBrix is depending on obviously like what you're doing with it, we have security pages that kind of explain through it. So a lot of these like integrations and things that you're setting up, you only send something to PixieBrix if you want to send something to PixieBrix. So I'll show you, this is kind of our dashboard where you can set things up. We've got your admin console, which is you interact here more if you've got like teams, but on an individual level, you're operating in this extension console, which by the way, this is one of the pages that I was like, Chrome can't access extensions here because you see this URL is not a URL, it's a Chrome page. And so PixieBrix will let you know if it cannot like run on or access a specific page. But this is where you can kind of see all the mods you've made. You can set up your own integrations and stuff. We don't have access to them here. This is all locally on your machine. And so basically that's kind of a nice to have, is that if you're trying to set up if you're trying, really trying to be tight with security and make sure you're limiting where you're interacting with, you can set up PixieBrix to run just on your browser, not, access anything in the cloud or whatever you'd like to do with that. So that's totally your call and up to you. And we definitely have some limitations in terms of like our JavaScript brick, for instance, it's sandbox. And so there's reasons that it can't access certain things on the page, obviously, to, help with that security concern and things like that. So yeah, hope that helps and clarifies that a bit.
Yeah, that's great to know. Thanks.
And I realized I put an apostrophe in that link, so that's not going to work. Let me reshare that. Yeah, okay. So for anyone who wants to build with us, are we good? Have we started for free? We've created an account. Like, are you on some page where your screen looks a little bit like this? It's okay if you are not. If you're just watching to learn, totally fine. But if you are trying to do this and you are not here, feel free to come off mute, post in the chat, let me know, and I will help you get to this spot if you want to be in this spot and you are not in this spot. I'll wait another few seconds just in case, because I know sometimes it's like intimidating. You want to be the one like, I can't get it working. But don't worry, there is no shame in this game. I'm happy to help. Okay. I'm not seeing anybody coming off mute or in the chat, so I'm going to assume anybody who wants to build with us is also in this view. And so what I'm going to show you how to do in the next, we should be able to probably do this in about 5 minutes. I'm going to show you how to build a mod that asks AI to tell you a joke. So let's go ahead and get started here. So from this view, we're going to add a quick bar action. So I'm going to click this add button. I'm going to click quick bar action. And over here, this is my configuration panel. That's where I'm going to configure it. I'm going to say, tell me a joke. And that's the name of the mod. The action title is what's going to show up in the quick bar. So if you open up your quick bar, which by the way, the default shortcut for that is Command or Control M. That'll open that up. You can always change that later. I'll show you how to do that. But if you're like, how do I open it? It's Command/Control M. And then you'll see we have our quick bar item here. I'm going to change that to tell me a joke. And you can see it literally changes as I type it. And you can specify the context you want that to happen in. You can specify the sites. So right now, this is only going to happen on Wikipedia, but maybe I want it to happen from everywhere. So I'll click all URLs, and I'll just go ahead and remove that. So this will happen anywhere. And then in the advanced settings, I can actually pick an icon. So maybe I want like a clown, or I don't remember what I've used for this. I think I've typically used emojis, but I could just use, whatever here. Or again, you could add an emoji here like that, and then it'll, if you add an emoji, it hides the icon, so that way there's no duplicates. So, but you can do that there. So once you've done that, next we want to add a brick. Remember, you click that plus button, and we're going to add the show modal or show a modal or a sidebar form. You just click show a modal, click add. This is going to make that like basic sort of form. And so you can see when I click that, it's going to pop up this form. This is the default view, but we're going to change it a bit. We don't need to change too much, but we'll just maybe change the form title to be provide a topic. You can see this preview over here in the data panel. It's going to show you how that changes. So we can change the submit button text. Maybe I want it to be tell me a joke. And then you can specify if you want it to be in a modal or a sidebar. We'll just leave it as modal for now. And now we get into the fun stuff with the fields. I'm just going to maybe specify here, like, we'll just call this like topic. We'll just say label, you know, what would you like a joke about? And, you know, you can change this field description text. You can just exclude it, whatever you want to do there. So that's what you do there. You can change the input type to be any number of things. Dates, files, numbers, drop down with labels, which is really useful if you're like, I want to visibly display something, but when they select it, I actually want it to pass out a different value. So you'd have like constant titles kind of thing. You can have checkbox, you can have multi-select checkbox, images, all sorts of stuff. So we'll just stick with single line text for now. You can require it or not require it. I'll just kind of leave that as is. But yeah, and so now you can see when we run our form, it's going to say, what would you like a joke about? And let's just say I'm going to say space travel. And I hit tell me a joke. You can see it's been submitted, and I can tell in the output panel, open up this object over here. And by the way, if you can't see this, you're like, where's that fourth panel? It might be collapsed. Look for these arrows up here. And then you can click that here. So and now you can copy that path, and then you can access that value in another place, which we're going to do. Click this add a brick, and we're going to add the create chat response with ChatGPT. Click add. Select your, again, you can use our default one. You can add your own. Select your model. Under messages, click add item. And we're just going to do a super simple role of a user saying, tell me a joke about. And notice I started typing at form, and it already started showing me what is available to me. So if you want to turn that on, that's actually a feature that we've got. You can go to this extension console, which again, you can access either by going to app.pixiebrix.com, or you can click, I think if you click the, no, it's not that home button. There's various ways you can get to it. The easiest way, like I said, I always do is I just go to app.pixiebrix.com, which takes me here, and then I click open extension console. But you can also do it from the sidebar here by opening up the sidebar and clicking that settings gear. And from there, go to the settings, and then you should see auto suggest variables in page editor. You can toggle that on, and then it'll do what it's doing for me, where it like shows you that. So this is what we want to see, right? And so basically we're saying, hey, ChatGPT, tell me a joke about whatever was in that topic. And so let's just run it again and see what it's doing. Tell me a joke about space travel. Now let's look at the output on ChatGPT. We're going to open up that. Whoop. And you see we've got some nested stuff in here, but here's the content. Why don't astronauts ever get hungry in space? Because they just eat your roids. Yeah, I don't know. This is always a fun one to do because I quickly realized AI is not going to be taking over any comedian's jobs anytime soon. So yeah, but anyways, for the sake of this, yeah, if someone understands that, let me know. But also feel free to post your own better than AI jokes, and yeah, famously witty, exactly. And so again, you know, we could start to reference that path with the variable popover, or we can just click copy there, because we're going to use that because when we don't want to have the page editor open every time we want to tell a joke and see the mod, right? Now let's actually show it in a sidebar. And so I'm going to add what's called the display temporary information. This basically opens a sidebar temporarily. It doesn't like permanently have it up over here. It's just going to open one. And, you know, you can give it a title of something like joke, say sidebar. You could also make that a modal if you want. And then this render document, this is where you're going to be building your sort of front end, that sort of interface and stuff. And again, I could spend hours talking about this because there's a lot you could do. We have tons of tons of jokes, sorry, jokes on the brain. We have tons of docs about different things you can do here and ways to interact with it. But I'm just going to go over here and you can, click what you're trying to edit in this preview panel. It'll show up in the middle. And let's just say, let's give me a clown emoji. Tell me a joke. And then I can, change the headers. I can style things. I can even write conditional logic to say, don't show this if blah, blah, blah. For instance, that the Pixie profile I showed you with all of the user data and user ways to connect with the user. If we don't have their LinkedIn data, I can make it hide that button so it doesn't even show it if we don't have it. And then over here, this example text, just click it. And again, now you can edit it in the middle. We're just going to paste that path of that output from ChatGPT with the response here. And so now let's run this again and you'll see. Tell me a joke. Let's try something else. Also, Leo, that went over my head. That's a good one. I think it probably was a pun on asteroids, just a pretty bad one. Let's try tell me a joke about traveling. Let's see. Why don't scientists trust atoms when they travel? Because they make up everything. Okay, that's a little bit better. But see now this is appearing in the sidebar here. So you can, now we don't have to go parse through the output over here to actually have something show up there and whatnot. So, and when I'm done, all I need to do is click save. And this is always going to be accessible for me. But let's say I actually wanted to make this so I could add it on another machine, or maybe I wanted to share it so someone else on my team could activate it. You click these three dots and you're going to click add to mod. And you just say create new mod. And we just call it, you'll be prompted to set an alias if you haven't already, but I just call this, tell me a joke, You can set all that and hit create. And now what you can do is go back to your extension console and go to mods, and you'll see right up here at the top is tell me a joke. And so I can say share with teams. And then if I've created teams, I can select them from here and I can copy this link and they'll be able to activate it. They don't ever have to open the page editor. They can, do whatever and it'll work. And so this is the beauty. So now I'm done with the coding and I can say, tell me a joke. What would you like a joke about? Engineers. This is always so bad. This is probably its worst category. Why did the engineer go broke? Because he lost all his potential. Yeah, see, that one doesn't even make sense. Good try, ChatGPT, but we'll all be able to keep working as comedians full time, I think. So yeah, we've only got 4 minutes left. I'm gonna pause there. We've built stuff. We've covered a lot of concepts, a lot of ground. Is anybody sitting here thinking like, ooh, I want to build something? We're probably not going to build it in like 3 minutes, but I'm happy to like answer questions about is this or that possible? Like, and set up some time with folks after if anybody's like, I really want to build this thing. Can you help me build it? We have people who have been using this for looking for jobs, writing like cover letters, like scraping the page of a job description and then asking ChatGPT to write a cover letter that they copy and paste and then format. We have people saving jobs they find. So there's lots of different, I guarantee you, no matter what you're doing, there's something this is useful for. Sometimes it just takes some time to play around and figure it out. But yeah.
On that note, Brittany, do you mind sharing again how people can find you?
Yes, yeah, absolutely. So the best ways to find me, I'm one of the moderators in the engineers developers channel in Slack. So if you're not already part of that, make sure you join the OIT Slack and head to engineers developers. You can join our channel. I'm in here. You can also DM me on Slack, Brittany Joyner. But also you can shoot me an email at brittany@pixiebrix.com. Or pop into this PixieBrix Slack, which is slack.pixiebrix.com, and I'm there. Yeah, you can find me on LinkedIn. I'll post my LinkedIn on here too, so you can definitely find me there. I'm usually pretty good at responding to that. Every now and then I'm on Twitter/X, but that's probably one of the least reliable channels to find me on because I go through phases with when I'm active on there and when I'm not. But yeah, any other questions or anything anybody wants to talk through building or how to build or what to do?
And while we are wrapping up, Let's all give a round of applause for Brittany. That was an amazing amount of
Thank you.
information covered in such a short time. So thanks, Brittany. And this is a great tool. Anytime I say, "Oh, I wish this site did something like this," now I
Yes.
can go and do it. So
Yes.
it's great for that. Um, if folks do have questions, please do add it in the chat or feel free to come off mute and ask the question. Also, take a few minutes to respond to our survey so we know how we did with this event, and also we can gear up for future events that you might be interested in.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's super helpful. We definitely love to do more, and they don't have to be about PixieBrix every time. We could explore some different tools together. Um, we could just hang out and drink Celsius or talk about our favorite kombucha and stuff. I'm down for whatever. So definitely let us know what's most interesting and exciting for you all.
And if there are no other questions, I also want to thank everyone who made it to this event. We are here for you, so feel free to connect with us on Slack, LinkedIn, whenever, and chat with us. And thanks for making this event and Out in Tech a great safe space for this community.
Yeah, thanks everyone. And thanks for joining and being active in the chat. It's always nice when there's like people who are, chatting and you're not just sitting there with crickets. So thank you everyone for joining. I really appreciate that.